Yo,
What's happening?
what's happening with you, bro?
Oh man, listen, another day in Corona paradise. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I appreciate you you taking the time to join me, man. This has been an endeavor I started about a little over 3 months ago, and it's just continued to grow. And I've been blessed to be able to have great conversations with great people and get some wisdom. And people who've been tuning in have been able to get some wisdom as well. So I'm excited for the conversation to take place with us today. Um,
Right.
I wanted to go ahead and jump in because I have a lot of questions, and I know that I'm not going to be able to ask everything that I would like to ask. But I wanted to start by talking about um, a hallmark career that you've already been able to have. I mean, from Gravity and the success of that, debuting at number one, to uh, you know everything else. I mean, Anomaly debuting at number one on Billboard, as well as the gospel charts at the same time. Being able to be the first hip hop artist to win a Grammy for gospel album, best gospel album of the year. I wanted to ask you, what has been a consistent factor in that type of success? Because I know everything is different, but can you give me and some of the people that are going to be tuning in something that you can say has been a carryover from one accomplishment to the next in this game?
Oh man. Um, I think you learn from each step of the way. You know what I mean? You learn how to navigate uh different tiers. And you just, it's the wisdom that you acquire in understanding that this is an industry. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think as creatives, you want to just be passionate about the art, and you just want to believe it's all pure, but it's still a business. And just understanding the business aspect of it, and how relationships, no matter what industry you're involved in, how crucial and critical relationships are. So I think that's been probably one of the biggest elements, for me, that's carried over from thing to thing to thing, is that the learning process. You stay a learner for forever.
Yeah, for sure. um I know people talk about influences a lot, and influences can vary for different reasons, especially when it comes to music. You can find inspiration from a lot of different things, but um I saw a an influence that we share in common, as it relates to Tupac. And I wanted to ask you specifically about Tupac, in terms of what it was that inspired you, about him, and how you look at your role when it comes to being inspiration for other people, or even an influence on other people.
Yeah. Pac to me was dynamic, and I think he was dynamic at a time when you weren't allowed to be. You had to just be gangster, or you had to just be conscious, or you had to just be, something. And Pac was dynamic. He could be a leader, a thought leader, a thug, a sensitive ladies man,
Yeah.
like all of these things. And I think that spoke to me on a personal level, because I knew I was a dynamic individual. I knew I wasn't one way, but I felt always forced to live in a box. And so Tupac gave me permission to be all of the different aspects of myself. And then not to be ashamed to speak truth, and be a zealot for what I believe in, even when they tell you not to be. Just make the music. Shut up and dribble, LeBron. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so Pac gave me permission to say, nah, I got something to say. I'm gonna say it. And I know you like this song, but I have some other things that I want to talk about that's going on in the world. Yeah.
How hard is that to do, at the beginning of your career? Because I know a lot of people kind of they switch it up, midstream, maybe, maybe do things that are more convenient to them, or they allow themselves to be kind of, I don't want to say dictated to, but influenced in that way to occupy a message that might not be theirs. So how hard has that been for you from out the gate?
So initially it wasn't hard for me, because I started off as just a purely independent artist and I was doing it my way from the jump. It didn't become a challenge until I was accepted within mainstream. And then it was kind of like, hey, you know, how should I do this? How should I say this? Should I do, you know what I mean? And you start wondering and second guessing and overthinking, because you're just trying to fit in and instead of being the potent you that you always were. So that's when it became a struggle.
Understood.
Yeah.
In a lot of different industries, and especially in our industry, the term boss is used frequently to describe, people's positioning within their own career or within the careers of other people. But I wanted to get it straight from you. At occupying the space of being an artist is a full-time thing, and I feel like artists make the best executives in the sense that they understand what it's like to be in those shoes. They understand what it's like to be trying to figure it out. But obviously there's a demand on your career as an artist simultaneously. I wanted to know from you, what's the workload really like as it relates to being in an executive position and still being an artist, but at the same time being a significant role player in the careers of so many others as well?
Man, you just opened up Pandora's box on that one, didn't you? It's, man, it is, it's extremely trying. The crazy part about it is I'm more at danger of going too hard than I am at not being able to juggle it all. I think there's a wiring that you love it all. Like, oh yeah, it's the Russell Simmons, the Diddy people that you saw growing up as a kid, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to. And so it's exciting to be in the studio 24/7. You just worked on your project, and now you're giving ideas for this other artist project. And then it's like you talking about the artwork, and then you like doing an interview. It's just like all these pieces that I don't think you even recognize the workload, and that's the catch-22 of doing what you love. You know what I mean? When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work until your body shuts down. You know what I mean? Until it's like, yo, I am done. What is going on with me? So it's been awesome. But it's managing your time and your margins and your health, your mental health, your emotional health, and all those particular things are some of the things that I've had to manage, because I love it. I love it. I love it. I wake up and eat it for breakfast, but it doesn't mean that I need to be doing it 24/7.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yo to the noops that are out there watching.
Hey.
You and I have the distinction of being members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and among other cornerstones of our fraternity is achievement in every field of human endeavor. And shout out to all the Greeks out there, but I wanted to ask you, as it relates to brotherhood, right? You learn about brotherhood in an intrinsic fashion when you're online, and even post crossing, there's a whole nother thing to deal with. But the question is more of an overarching question about brotherhood in general. What is it, from your vantage point, what is it that we're missing as a community of Black men that prevents us from embracing brotherhood as a culture? And what can we do to help ourselves? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say it's wrong to ask for help from anybody else, but there is a certain amount of work that you can always do to improve your situation. And I just wanted to know from you about brotherhood in general. What can we do to be better brothers to each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if there's one particular answer, but I'll give you one thought I have on it. I think specifically as it pertains to the Black community, Black men suffer from what I would call post-traumatic slave syndrome. And post-traumatic slave syndrome is kind of like where you still are carrying these cultural mindsets that were embedded during slavery, that were passed on from generation to generation to generation, these false ideals, where, you know, there were buck fights where they would pit you against another black man and make y'all fight for the entertainment of the slave masters. And that's one of the things I think we still carry on, is that we don't recognize that we can be collaborators. We always have to be competitors.
Right.
And I think that becomes part of the problem within our community, is that we want to collaborate with the you know, Barry Weisses and the Clive Davises, but we want to compete with one another. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you got to want to collaborate. So those guys are at the top collaborating and process, you know, oh, hey, how should we run Sony today? How should we, and we're competing on how to get, you know, stepping on each other to get there. And so I think brotherhood is going to come when we can learn to see each other as complementary and not, you know, competitors. How can we complement each other in order to accomplish a goal? I was just talking to somebody the other day, and you know, oftentimes when let's say I have an idea, a startup company, and I come to you and I'm like, yo man, I got this startup idea, would you be a part of it? You'll say, well, what's in it for me? You know, I can't have you winning if I'm not winning. And it's like, bro, if you help me win and I become Mark Zuckerberg, you now are friends with Mark Zuckerberg. You know what I'm saying? And that's how this thing works. You help me, I help you, you help me. But that's the idea we got to eliminate.
Gotcha. Very, very well said. I wanted to talk about the road to restoration. I know this Friday is an important day. The behind the scenes, you know, making of the album, the documentary comes out. I saw the trailer for it. And I wanted to ask you about the road to restoration itself. I wanted to know kind of what we can expect from the documentary, but in these terms. When you get to the road, when you're on the road to restoration, is there an end to the road of the road? And if so, what's after?
That's good. That's and I mean, that's it. Really, what it comes down to is that I think that's the idea that a lot of us have bought into, that there's some destination that we're supposed to reach here on earth. The journey is the destination. You know what I'm saying? And life is it's not a race, it's a marathon. And in a marathon, you don't win, you finish. You know what I mean? So you don't, it's about finishing the marathon. It's not about beating somebody else. So restoration is a marathon. It's about continuing on that journey. So if I decide today, yo, I've been 100 pounds overweight and I'm going to restore my physical health by eating right. And once I reach my ideal weight, I don't just stop. It's not over. It now has become a part of my life to maintain this sense of healthiness. And so whether that's, you know, your emotional, your mental health, your spiritual health, you have to continue that journey until you finish the race, until your time is up. And so that's what restoration looks like, you know, and that's the road to restoration. Yeah.
Got you. So on Friday, I've seen some people comment about where they can see it. I just want to make sure that information gets shared as well. Can you share that for us?
Yeah, it's available exclusively at Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry. No, it's on YouTube. So, you know, check it. It's a 3-part series. It'll be on YouTube. Follow me, you know, if you want to make sure you can keep up. But so it's a journey, man, where you know, I sit down and have a conversation with my dad for the first time in this documentary. So, you know, it's a lot of restorative pieces to my life and journey. So make sure you check that out.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be dope. Yeah. So, in keeping with restoration, I wanted to touch on the album itself. I've listened to the singles, you know, I've You know, Set Me Free. You know, that's my jam. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's like I'm working out with a purpose. It's like is what I feel like. But you know, so Set Me Free. You've got Drown. You know, you've got Deep In. You've got Zombie. From a sonic perspective, what else can we expect on this project?
That's a great question. I think, you know, this album is unapologetically me. And so I am all of these things. I am pop music, I am hip hop music, I am R&B, I'm gospel, I'm all of it. It's a gumbo. And so even with these three songs, you know, the four songs that have been released, they have elements of all of that. And some of the ones that probably haven't come out are the ones that are a little more niche. So like just like straight up hip hop, you know, it's on there, but that's not one of the ones we put out. One of them that's artistic leaning, and it's like, oh, you took some creative risks on here. That's on there, but that's not one of the ones that came out. But I wanted people to experience all of who I am and as much as possible within a project without it feeling schizophrenic. You know, it's cohesive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, you know, we got, I mean, BJ's Chicago Kid, you know, we got a phenomenal song that we worked on together. And I mean, it's one of my favorites because he felt like I needed this. I stole one of J. Cole's beats from S1 for this song called Deep In. I'm not Deep In, but Self-Discovery. And shout out to S1. Thank you, brother. Sorry, J. Cole is taken, snatched. But you know, that's one of my favorite records too. It's just it's a hip hop record. You know, work with Danny Lee, and she's popping right now, and we came together to craft a song that I think my ladies will love and appreciate. You know what I mean? And so it's a gumbo, and that's what people are going to experience.
I'm glad to hear that. I love how you said it's a cohesive body. I feel like, you know, people kind of stopped making cohesive bodies of work, you know, and then there's been this wave of let me just give you 30, 40 songs all at one time as well. So there's this push and pull between this curated, like the curated part of making an album and making sure that it's cohesive is kind of being lost in the sauce right now.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that, you know, you have taken into consideration elements of yourself, but also, like as you said earlier, the business of music and your fans and everything like that. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
That brings me to genre. I know, I mean, based on the artists that you listed that are part of this project and artists that you've collaborated with before, there's a list of artists that span across multiple genres. I love the way that it doesn't matter who the artist is. There's a way to meet Lecrae on a record and make something special, which I think any great artist that's really striving for greatness is gonna be able to do. I think people don't necessarily strive for it, right? I mean, shoot, if I'm 16 years old and you know I can sing and I get signed as a singer, but I was meant to also play guitar and also be a great songwriter, that might not ever happen because, you know, I get into the mix, you know, as a 16-year-old singer, and then boom, it is what it is. My career has got whatever, you know, lifespan that it has. But when it comes to genre, I've read some quotes. You know, I thought it was very poignant. I think there was a quote that was talking about, you know, Christian shoes or Christian this and that. I'm like, yo, that makes a lot of sense. How do you feel? Why do you think we need when depend on genre so much, and we always have to have this genre ID behind everything in order for us to be able to accept the music for what it is?
I think categories are good, but not ultimate. The problem is when we make them ultimate. So categories are helpful for us to make sense of things, like narrative wise. So it's like, is this a cracker or a cookie? Like, which one is it? Is it a cracker or a cookie? Just say it's a cookie because it's sweet and it helps me understand what I'm getting myself into. You know what I mean? But, you know, when there is something that kind of transcends it's harder to say what it is. It's like, well, wait, what is it? Is this cake or cornbread? I don't know. Both of them are sweet. Like, I'm confused. Just enjoy it then. Just enjoy it. Is it good? Yes. Just enjoy it. You know, what is Prince? What genre is Prince? Exactly. What is he? Well, does it matter? Is it good? Yeah. So that's how I approach it. When you approach me and you say, well, what, let's say the Christian community says, is it Christian? Well, did you feel blessed and edified by it? I did. Okay. Well, enjoy that. For the hip hop community, if they're like, yo, man, is this gospel or what is this? Did you like it? It was hitting. I ain't gonna lie. Just enjoy it then. Enjoy it for what it is. And don't worry about putting a category on it if you appreciate it and it's helping you. You know what I mean? But if you need a category to help other people understand, go for it. If that's what you got to do, go for it.
Got you. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about your book. So this is the second. The first, Unashamed, was a New York Times bestseller. And you addressed issues that I think a lot of men stray away from addressing. You know, we might even hold them in until our last breath, you know. I wanted to talk to you about your book in particular. Okay, so just to make sure everybody knows what the title is, the book is I Am Restored, How I Lost My Religion, but Found My Faith. And it's out on October 13th, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into this. I was introduced to religion before I was introduced to faith. I was already on the religion. I was already strung out on religion. And faith was just something, it was just an ancillary piece of information that came along with religion, if it was mentioned or if it wasn't. It was almost like a semicolon, you know.
Yeah.
It's a piece of punctuation. I may or may not know how to use it. I may or may not know what it means. And it wasn't until I was involved in a religious type of situation, and that situation just crumbled, and I saw the fallacy of humanity in religion and mistakes in religion and sin in religion, that I began to find what my faith was. So, does it take a dark moment for us to know what faith really is? And for those that are out there that are on their faith walk and they're trying to dive deeper into faith and a personal relationship, what advice, based on your experience, would you give them?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't take dark moments to get there, because man, like mine was traumatic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't
same.
want anybody to have to go through what I went through to understand what faith looks like. I think it's kind of like, you know, I just use it as an example. It's like family. You know, if you are close to your family, you tend to take them for granted because you're close to them. You see them all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, you take them for granted. And I think that's what we often do with faith in our relationship with God. We just take it for granted because it's there. And you don't have to go through a dark time if you can keep that in front of you consistently. If you can constantly be appreciative, you know, it's like, you know what, man, thank you. I woke up this morning. You know what, man, I have value, worth, purpose. Just keeping that in front of you consistently, then you don't have to go through the dark periods. But religion, the problem with religion or the attraction is that we love steps. You know, we just love like give me the 5 steps to this, give me the 7 steps to this. And that's how religion becomes popularized, is because it's almost like, here's the 5 steps to meeting God. Do this, 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 and then God's gonna love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's so toxic and so pragmatic that it strips the dynamic of the relationship away. And nobody wants a relationship with another person like that. So how do I love you? All you gotta do is cook me breakfast, kiss me, and wash my clothes. That's toxic. That's not a real relationship. So, you know what I mean? You don't want to hear my thoughts, my dreams. You don't want to understand my dynamics. And God is no different. God wants a relationship. God wants, doesn't just, you can't wear no earrings and you better not be listening to the devil's music. And it, you know, it's like, come on, man. Like, that is religion. And so, long story short, I would just say, before I get off my soapbox, religion is when you are trying to earn the approval and the love of God. Relationship is when you live out of knowing you're loved, right? So I know I don't got to earn. Religion is when I come home with a bouquet of flowers and I say, here you go, baby, I'm supposed to give you these. That's religion. Love is when I say, I just thought about you all day. I'm so appreciative of you. I went out and got you some flowers just to commemorate how awesome you are. That is love, faith, relationship. And so that's what we're missing out here. Yeah.
Man. So the album comes out next Friday.
Comes out next Friday.
And I thought it was really cool because you're doing a really dope album release party on the 3rd of September. And I wanted you to break it down for everybody that's out there. I know I read about it. I know there are some cool little elements involved that will allow for your fans to be able to engage with you on different levels, and they'll be able to see certain things. But I wanted you to be able to let it be known exactly what they can expect on the 3rd.
Oh man, September 3rd, the live show. It's the first live show I've gotten to do since COVID hit. So the cool part about it is everybody from around the world can watch. So if you never got to see me in Brazil, you get to see me in Brazil. If you never got to see me wherever, you can see me on September 3rd. You know, go to my website, go to Lecrae.com, go to my Instagram, whatever, to find out more information. But the cool part about it is that, yes, there are opportunities. You know, you get to choose. You can choose what songs I do for the encore. So I'm gonna take a vote on what particular songs y'all want to hear. You know, we'll do a different way of meet and greet. That's gonna be more personal because now I can do a Zoom combo with you. I can do a FaceTime with you, and it can be, you know, a personal meet and greet where we're just talking and chatting it up. You know, I'm sending people merchandise. I'm signing stuff. And it's just going to be very interactive where my fans now get to have a say-so in what they're seeing. And they get to hear the whole album for the first time live. So make sure you check that out. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so let's get into some philosophical stuff. I know that we can have this type of conversation. I wanted to ask you about fatherhood. Fatherhood during 2020.
Sheesh.
I was talking to somebody earlier today because I had a show that had gotten it was supposed to be pushed back. It was in April, it got pushed back to October, and then he's calling me today talking about, man, we might have to try to just go ahead and do this virtually. And you know, he was talking about his daughter who's 10 and how she's just kind of just going with the flow, like she's gonna look back at it and be like, oh yeah, that one year, you know, yeah, we weren't we weren't in school as much, that type of thing. But I wanted to ask you, as it relates to fatherhood, but let's make it a little broader and talk about influence on children, because I know there are kids who look up to you. I know you have a nephew who's a talented artist who looks up to you as well. What types of conversations have you had to have or have you wanted to have, and during this type of year, especially when it comes to things like COVID and people are, it's a mass for some odd reason is a polarizing concept unless it's Halloween and we're going out and we're getting some candy. And then everybody wants to wear a mask. But as it relates to COVID and as it relates to social justice as a whole, do you stray away from certain conversations and try to protect the certain innocence, or do you go ahead and dive in?
Yeah, I don't. I think, it's case by case. Obviously, as you measure the dynamic of the child, and you navigate their capacity and how sensitive are they and what can they handle and how does this need to be delivered. So, one may be paranoid about every little thing, and super literal. And so when you say something about the police, they just take it super literal, and now they don't want to go outside because they're like, oh, I'm gonna die. So with that, you ease them into like a broader perspective and then help them to understand it specifically. And then you got the one who's just, headstrong and wants to do what they want to do. And it's like, yo, watch this video. I want you to watch the video of this happening so you can see what's going on out here. And they just have to be exposed to it. But what I tend to do is whatever I'm exposing, the young ones to, I walk them through it. I talk them through it. So whatever that is, because that's something that never happened for me, is I just got exposed to stuff and I was left to figure it out. Like, what did I just see? You know what I mean? And there was no conversation about it. So for me, I want to make sure that I am expressing, like talking them through it. We sat and watched The Hate U Give. And I was like, hey, let's unpack it. What did you see? What did you get? How did you process this? And I think that's something that you have to do with kids in general, is unpack stuff for them.
Yeah, I love it. I was a teacher for 8 years in Atlanta, and I taught on the South Side, and I also taught on Bankhead Highway.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm very familiar with Grove Park.
Yeah.
In that area, I love, your being willing to be involved in helping the community of Grove Park here in Atlanta. What has been the inspiration behind some of that activity? Because I want to talk about Peace Prep as well, because those two things hit more close to home with me. Because when I was teaching at an all boys school called Best Academy on Bankhead, these kids thought in middle school that it was just part of the protocol to be running from police and that type of thing. So it's like I spent most of my time, saying, forget about French. Let's talk about life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You came. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And but there were so many other things beyond that they weren't even like, we couldn't really get into the educational side of things because there were other things that they were already bringing into the classroom before the bell even rang. So I wanted to get some more insight from you about the project that you're doing within the Grove Park community, as well as Peace Prep.
Yeah. Grove Park, on the west side, like you said, Bankhead area, English Ave is where Peace Preparatory Academy is. It's in the Bluff. If y'all ever seen the Snow on the Bluff hood documentary, it's one of the toughest communities in Atlanta. And I'm just, where people tell me not to go is where I want to be. You know what I'm saying? When people say don't go there, well, somebody got to go there. And I've always kind of been that person. When I started doing music, my first audience was the Juvenile Detention Center. That was the first people that got access to my music, because I was drawn to those disenfranchised folks who felt like they didn't have a voice that cared about them, because I was that kid. You know what I mean? I was that kid who didn't know if there was anybody who listened to me, and I had all this internal pain and turmoil, and I'm getting arrested at 13 years old, and my mom was like, boy, I gotta work, I can't deal with all this, and so for me, I was just drawn to those troubled individuals. And so when they say, hey, these kids in this community, there's no school here. There ain't been a school here in 20 years. And someone's like, I want to build a school here. I'm like, yes, let's do that. Let's do that then. You know, let's build a school here then. And Peace Preparatory Academy is now 5 years strong.
Wow.
And in one of the toughest neighborhoods. But now it's because of the school and another company, Oaks ATL, which I got the pleasure of investing in. There's a incredible school here, and now there are quality apartments being built up next to the school, somewhere where I would live. Because if I would live there, I don't want you to live there. So you deserve dignity. And so now the community's going to change. And we're not making the prices sky high. We're keeping the prices at a particular place and teaching financial literacy at the school. And just repeating the same process in Grove Park. People getting priced out of Grove Park. And they're pillars of this community. So how do we keep them in this community? How do we allow them to stay and help them, you know, with financial literacy, education, how to avoid the system? And, you know, if we can stop it on the front end, and we don't have to worry about a lot of stuff on the back end of everything. And that's just one of my passions. So when people are scared to go places, I'm like, well, somebody got to go. So might as well be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, I wanted to ask you about navigation. Biggie had a song called "More Money, More Problems," and I've myself dealt with, you know, situations around me kind of changing as things progress in my career. You know, you think you know how you're gonna handle it. You think you got it all figured out, you know it all because you done it for however many years and you got this, and then all of a sudden you're kind of taken aback by, you know, somebody that you may know who now all of a sudden views you differently, or just a different set of problems altogether that you've never dealt with before. So how does Lecrae navigate next level problems?
Man, unfortunately for me, most of the stuff that I've had to deal with has been trial and error. You know what I mean? I just had to go through the fire. You know, when you're pioneering in so many areas,
Yeah,
you don't have a roadmap. So, you know, for me, you know, the music that I'm making, there was nobody else that I could look to who had done some of the things that I was doing. There's people who did it at certain levels, but after I surpassed that level, it was like, well, ain't nobody else gonna be able to give you advice on this. So a lot of it was trial and error. A lot of it was, you know, letting people borrow money and then they took advantage of you. And it's like, I wish I would have known that that's how this happens. A lot of it was, you know, giving people all access passes to events and then they go harass the celebrities. And it's like, okay, I guess I can't do that again. You know,
right.
it's just a lot of trial and error and learning how to navigate it. And you know, it was funny. I forget who it was, but you know, somebody like Jordan or Oprah or somebody, some black billionaire, said something along the lines of, "It's hard for your friends to breathe the air that you're now having to breathe," and so it takes patience to help walk your friends to this place where they can breathe that air, and some of them won't be able to. You know what I mean? Some people just aren't going to be able to breathe that air. And so for me, it's been like, man, just having to take my folks along with me on this journey so that they can see like, oh, you just regular old Lecrae to me, but I didn't think about the fact that in this space, this is how people see you. Or I didn't think about the fact that you have to deal with financial things like this or like this. And so, yeah, I had to take it's a lot of education and you know, you're gonna have to get taken advantage of a couple times before you understand, like, all right, now I'm gonna have to do this different next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me, or talk to Lecrae
Yeah.
pre Columbia
Oh.
about the potential of that partnership. I'm curious to know because your entry, you know, was such you know, a powerful independent, right? You know, there are people who try to use the word independent to relegate you and marginalize you and say, oh, you still doing the independent thing? All right, brother. All right. All right. But when you're able to make an impact in a way to make everyone pay attention, it changes the paradigm. There's a paradigm shift.
Mm.
And, you know, a lot of indies, the goal is to be noticed and to want to be partnered with in a particular type of way with
Yeah.
a major. That's one of the goals.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious to know pre and post how what was your idea of what it would be like pretty accurate?
No.
That was easy.
No. Man, where do I even begin? I, I, I mean, all the stories you know, it's kind of like, it's like that pretty girl in high school, and you just want to date her so bad, and everyone's like, man, she be tripping, she does this, she's like this, or girls that guy, and it's like, he a player, don't do it, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it may not be that bad. I don't know. She said she liked me, man. I don't know. And you listen to everything everybody got to say. So when you approach her, you're like, hey, listen, like, just don't break my heart, okay? And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna, yeah, okay. And then you get in a relationship, and then you like, man, you said you wasn't gonna break my, why are you doing this to me? And everyone's like, well, we tried to tell you. So all those stories you hear about major labels, you know what I'm saying? You like, but that was you though. That's not gonna be my story. That's you. And then you get in the system and you like, dang, this is just like they said it was gonna be. So, you know, man, now mind you, the success stories at major labels are the ones that you always look at, right? You always look at Beyonce. You always look at Pharrell. You always look at all the success stories, because that's, you don't see any problems, but you don't realize there's 100 other artists under them, and it's not going like that for them. And there's a reason why. And so you gotta, you know, for me, I had to see it. I was very blessed and fortunate to, one, do a partnership and not like be signed directly to a label. So that was a blessing. And then two, the people that I worked with at Columbia were phenomenal. You know, my first go around, they were phenomenal, but the turnover rate is so high. None of them were there my second time around. So that is another issue that you got to deal with in that system. You know, you grow close to them. Y'all came up, man, I love what you're doing. I believe in your project. We're going to take over the world. We're going #1, baby. And then it's like, yo, we did that, man. You ready to do it again? Oh, bro, I had to go to this other label. It's like, oh, what? So, you know, it's, yeah.
So we're taking over the world, baby.
Yeah. So there's my major label story. You know, it can work for you if you know what you're doing, but most people don't have that kind of leverage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Understood. Does the concept of team change as you become more successful? You know, you talked about the turnover rate, you know, with the major labels, but is there a turnover rate as an independent? And you know, like, what is that growth like when it comes to a nucleus that's been growing together, and then all of a sudden, let's say somebody who's been riding with you, they have an opportunity to do something else, and that's something they want to do. How do you deal with that? Does that go on in the midst of, you know, having a powerful independent conglomerate?
Yeah, the beauty of the independent label is, like, of course, you're smaller, so there's more access, there's more opportunity to work things out, to process stuff internally, less chances for stuff to get lost in the sauce or lost in communication. You know, when there's 200 employees and somebody says, yeah, I'll go tell Mark in sales, and they forget, or something else happens, it's like Mark ain't never gonna get that information. When there's 20 employees, it's different, you know, because there's not as much of there's more margin for less margin for error with that many people. But what you do have to do, what we had to learn is that when you work with a small team, it starts off like a game of golf. You know, in a game of golf, everybody hits the ball. Y'all just chilling, y'all talking. It's like, yeah, oh my God, this is so great. We're having a good time. Where's the golf cart? Another round, please. You know what I mean? And it's a great time. But then it gets, as you grow, it gets a little more complicated in terms of the basketball. And you got to be able to acknowledge, okay, it's basketball now. It's like everybody's still gonna touch the ball. Everybody's still gonna shoot. But Johnny, we need you to block a little more than shoot. Okay, that's okay. You know, you still gonna touch the ball. It's okay. And then we got to the place where it was football. Now, football is when it's harder because you have to have some hard conversations with people. You got to say, bro, just kick. I'm sorry. We don't need you to throw, catch, just kick. And that's when it gets tougher because they got to be a little more specialized. And it's like little Pookie, who was working with you when it was golf, is not really that good at kicking. And you like, Pookie, man, I love you, bro, but this ain't your skill set. Now we're gonna try to work you in somewhere on special teams, but but kicking ain't your thing, bro. So that becomes the hard part. But when you can have those honest conversations, it works.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as me time for Lecrae?
Yeah, thank you to COVID. There's lots of me time. You know what I'm saying? I got plenty of me time. No, that's a great question. You know what? For all the accolades and awards that I have won, platinum albums, Grammys, #1s, my greatest accomplishment is being able to be present. That is man, if there's nothing else, I can be present. I can be still. I can hear from God. I can talk to my kid about what's going on in their world. And it's like, glitter? Oh, wow. Tell me some more. What else? Glitter and dinosaurs? Wow. You know, I can just be there. And that's better than anything imaginable, is that presence, man. That's something special that most of us don't take advantage of. We're so busy. Go, 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 go. We don't take advantage of, like, man, let me just be present in this moment and appreciate it for what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me read a quote that you gave, and I want to get you to unpack this quote for me. It says, "There's more freedom in confessing our weaknesses than pretending we have it all together." How do we get to the point where we're willing to confess a weakness, especially if you come from a certain type of background where weakness is frowned upon from the get-go? Yeah. How do you get to the point where the confession of that is something you can do? And who would you do that to?
Right. That's good. Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is confession needs to happen for healing, right? It doesn't need to happen to everybody, but it needs to happen to some trustworthy individuals. I'm okay with confessing a lot of my stuff to the world, because I've been afforded the comfort of having good friends and family that I've been able to walk through a lot of stuff with over the last few years. So I'm not ashamed of it. Mm-hmm. But you know, I can talk about sexual abuse. I can talk about verbal abuse. I can talk about temptations and failures because they don't define me. And I'm comfortable there, but a lot of people are not. And so what I would say is you can't find healing if you don't confess. If you don't admit you have cancer, if you don't confess that to a doctor, then you're not going to get healing. You're not going to get help. You're not going to get restoration. So there is freedom in confession, and there is suffering in suppression. You cannot suppress that stuff. It's going to kill you. You know, eventually it's going to kill you. So what I would say is, you know, to get there, you have to confront and the skeleton in the closet. You got to confront who you're not comfortable the person that you're not comfortable seeing in the mirror. You got to confront that person. And you've got to look, as a caterpillar, you got to look at the cocoon and say, I'm about to go in here. And I'm going to have to stay in here for a minute until I come out a butterfly. But you'll never be a butterfly if you don't walk in that cocoon and sit in there and get that transformation that you need. And so it's always scary. It's always hard to stand on the edge of becoming someone new, because you got to die to the old person. You got to confront that person and say, you don't get to live here anymore. Mr. Insecurity, Mr. Guilt-ridden, shame-ridden person, you can't stay no more. So I got to confront you and begin. And this is not, don't get it twisted, this ain't an overnight process. This is a process. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to tell myself I'm dead to me. I'm the new me now. No, this is a process. Okay, so this is a cocoon. You have to stay in that thing for a minute. So, you know, that is having, on the simplest pragmatic term is, if you have close friends that you really, really trust, meet once a week, once a month, and just get it out. Just hash it. Just deal with it. And if you're one of the friends that somebody's telling all this stuff to, face them, don't fix them. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be faced. Just be present with them, hear them, listen, say, man, I hate that for you. I'm sorry, man. I still love you. You know what? You did what? It's okay, man. I still love you. I'm here. And if you don't have, if it's deeper than that, go to therapy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Find you a good therapist. I love the Lord and I pray. And when I pray, he said, go to therapy. So there, you know what I'm saying? But that's how I would say you can begin to confront those issues and move forward.
Got you. I wanted to touch on another thing. I know you're involved in the tech community as well as some other communities. I wanted to talk real quick because I know people are looking to try to figure out how they can, you know, navigate and get into or get to the next level in their artistry or in the things that they're doing. I wanted to talk about Get Mixed. I'm assuming that's Get Mixed, right?
Yeah.
GetMXD.com.
Yeah, MXD. Yeah.
So I thought it was really cool because when I was coming up, I would be like, man, I'm about to record this song. And then I'm recording and I'm like, wait a second, I got to do what after it? I thought recording was all I needed to do and put it out. No, you got to get it mixed. What's getting it mixed? Oh, you got to do this and that. So I thought it was really cool from a tech standpoint that that's something that you're offering for people out there who are looking to get in the industry and just make sure their presentation of their music that means so much to them is more proper. Can you touch on that real quick?
Yeah, if for any aspiring artist, any, you know, young artist who doesn't have a lot of money, which is how I started, you want your sound to be quality. You want all of the bells and whistles that all of the major artists have, but you don't have the access. And I understand what that struggle is like. When I'm listening to my song, I'm like, man, how come this don't sound like Future album? It sounds different. A lot of it is because of the engineering of the song. And, you know, you may be recording this in your bedroom, and sometimes that's the reason why it doesn't get where it needs to get to, doesn't get to the next level because of the quality of it. So we created Mixed, MXD. So like you said, the website is getmxd.com. We created that for people who want world-class mixing and engineering, but don't have world-class money. So my engineer, who's a Grammy Award-winning engineer, you know, it's kind of his way of giving back to the artistic community by offering his services at an extremely discounted rate to make sure people can get the quality work that they want in their production. So, you know, check out that website. And that's just one way of me trying to give back as well, you know, and me trying to, you know, dip my pinky toe in the tech world. So, yeah.
Yo, I know we're going to be wrapping up. So I wanted to first, you know, tell you, I appreciate your time. You know, I know you got a million things to do. Shout out to Jackie O for making this happen. you know, achievement in every field of human endeavor has always been the goal since I've been a part of this thing. And I love being able to look at brothers who are doing it, not just in one way, but really in every field of human endeavor. So shout out to you, man. Congrats on everything that you've done and all that you are doing. I wanted to give you the last word to those people that are out there before we sign off.
Yeah. Oh man, here's what I'll tell y'all. I know it's COVID crazy out here right now. People are dazed and confused. They are concerned about, you know, what's happening in the world, what's happening in politics, what's happening in, you know, racism and all of these different narratives that are going on out here. And let me just tell you, man, one day at a time. One day at a time. You're going to overwhelm yourself trying to wrap your mind around all these things. You're inundated with information, and you are not created to wear all that on your shoulders. One day at a time. So breathe today, you know, you know, grow, read, process, take some time. You will be okay. One day at a time, y'all. So love y'all, appreciate y'all.
Man, thank you once again for rocking with me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find new pie, bro, and you know, I'm looking forward to this Friday. I'm looking forward to next Friday. I'm looking forward to the 3rd. I'm looking forward to the 13th of October as well for the book, man. I'll be tuning in and rocking with you every step of the way, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, family. Much
All
love
right,
to
Doc.
you. God
Yes, sir.
bless.